All right, it is time. Football is always meaningful, but we are seeing some real meaningful football. Wild card weekend, super wild card weekend. So this is stupid versus spread. Uh, we're just going to dive right into it. So, Mike, first game Saturday, 3:30 Seahawks at 49ers. 49ers are at home, 10-point favorites. And the over under is open at 44.5, but has since gone down to 42.5 with 96% of the money from what I can see on the under. As far as the line, 67% of the tickets are on the 49ers minus 10, but it's an even split of the money, which means there's a lean of percentage difference on the Seahawks. So we're just going to start breaking every single one of these games down. Nothing too in depth. I'm sure you can find that somewhere that goes into like an hour long conversation on each of these fucking games. But we'll keep it short, sweet, and simple. Mike, do you have a pick for this game, and what do you think happens?
Yeah, I have San Francisco by 10. I think they win fairly easily. Um, it's Look, San Francisco's been a good story, or sorry, Seattle's been a good story, but they're sort
They
of
have
trending in the wrong direction.
very much so, and have been since the middle of the season.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the Niners, aside from that Raiders anomaly, have been playing their best football of the year. Brock Purdy seems to have found a rhythm. Their defense is playing lights out. I think that this is like if I pick it's trendy, but if I pick a team that's going to start to build belief towards a Super Bowl run, especially out of the NFC right now, coming into this weekend, it's the 49ers. I think you could make the argument that even with Brock Purdy at quarterback, they might be the most complete team in the playoffs right now. Um, not the most, maybe not the most explosive, maybe not the Super Bowl favorites, maybe not a team that's going to win every game because you don't know what Brock Purdy is and what he's going to do in the classic 49ers conundrum. But like when you talk about an offensive line that can run the ball, weapons on the outside, they'll get Debo back. They play incredible defense. Like every other position other than the quarterback, they are completely well rounded right now. So I
Correct.
think it starts here. I think this is the end of the run for Seattle. I think San Francisco wins this game. I don't know what the total does. I do think 42 is a lot because I do think the defense plays lights out. I think I may add the under just because of the cash ticket split, and I think it makes sense. Actually, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take San Francisco minus 9.5, and San Francisco under 42.
Well,
Um,
that's a great segue because I do have the under
Yeah,
42
it just
as my
it
pick.
makes sense, right? Like their defense is going to play lights out. The offense probably you would expect to score somewhere in the high 20s, early or low 30s, and you expect Seattle to be limited to somewhere around 7 to 14 points. And if that's what
Right.
you think is going to happen, it's a pretty simple play.
Yeah. So the reason I lean the under here is mostly because of the Seahawks, right? I do think the 49ers very much could easily put up probably 20 to 30 points on the Seahawks. I don't think their defense has been that stout at all. I don't hate minus 10, but that's a lot in a playoff game. Obviously, like all gas, no brakes in a playoff game, so you don't let up. But 10 seems like a lot against a feisty Seahawks team. But so the way I looked at it, right, it's going to be windy uh, at Levi Stadium, and the Seahawks have at best an average running game, right? Rashad Penny's been out for the season since his injury, so Ken Walker's had to step up. He's a good running back, but he only has about 1,000 yards this season and 9 rushing touchdowns. And if so, you're relying on Geno Smith, who's played very well this year, but you're relying on him in a windy situation away in a stadium where there's going to be a lot of 49ers fans coming out of the woodwork to come to this game. It just doesn't seem like a scenario in which Ken Walker and Geno Smith are going to carry this team to break 42.5 along with the 49ers. So I'm taking the under here. I think it's an early Saturday game, playoff game nonetheless, but early Saturday game, different time frame. You're coming off of a a downward trend for the Seahawks, and you're playing. I would argue the hottest, like the hottest team right now. Speaking about how they finished the season, in the league. So I like 9.5 slash -10 for the 49ers. I will be taking the under in this game.
I think it's also worth noting that it's not just like a new coach or a guy who is not used to being like Shanahan always finds a way to get these teams, especially these types of teams. And granted, they still don't exactly know what Brock Purdy is, but that team seems to like have rallied around him.
Hmm.
So I would expect them. Kyle Shanahan knows how to do it, especially in these early playoff rounds, to get his teams very ready to play, very motivated to play. They play very aggressively. They play a very physical style in the playoffs. It's all conducive to them winning this game. I think Seattle, like I said, I think Seattle's a great story. I think they've had a great year, but I think this is just too much of a sled to climb. I think the only way you'll this is another one where I say this a lot, but like I think you'll kind of know early, but I think this really is going to depend on whether or not Seattle can get a score or two at the beginning of the game and build some confidence. Because if San Francisco comes out and shuts them down immediately in the first quarter, Seattle's not coming back from that. So I think if you're backing the 49ers like I am when I drive to Virginia to place my legal wagers in that state, I'll be hopeful that Seattle sort of gets shut down early and they don't build any confidence here.
I would agree with that. And maybe the Seahawks come out firing, but I don't think that'll happen. The second game of the night on Saturday, really the day, is Chargers at Jaguars. Jags are 2.5 point dogs at home. Over under is 47.5. 7:15 Eastern on NBC. 42 degrees Fahrenheit, 10-degree winds in Jacksonville. Um, Mike, I'll let you start again on this one.
I have an interesting play here. Uh,
Okay.
it's not the over. I'm taking the over because I think the defenses aren't as good as the two offenses that are playing. And I think eventually these teams both get to 25, which means they go over 40. I think 47 is too low. Like this number feels like it should be at 51 almost. Like
Yeah.
it feels like sort of like a weird shit sort of game where like there's going to be a defensive touchdown. They're going to trade scores at the end of the game to get over this number. Um, but I'm gonna do something I normally don't do, which is I'm gonna take Jacksonville plus 2.5 and sprinkle the money line. Um,
Hmm.
I love them in a home dog spot, especially at night. Chargers coming to the East Coast off of the dysfunction of having Mike Williams carted off the field in a meaningless game. Um, and all of that sort of points to me like Jacksonville's back in the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence has played a lot better down the stretch. They've been playing essentially elimination games for the past month, and now they get one at home against a team that not sputtered into the playoffs, but just hasn't found the mojo. Like of the teams that you would say are not carrying momentum into the playoffs right now, from the AFC, the Ravens and the Dolphins jump out, but those are because of quarterback injuries and not necessarily because of the way they've been playing. But besides those two, the Chargers have just not. They're excited to be there. They've managed to win games down the stretch. But when we talked earlier in the season about the Chargers and the Bengals sort of making it happen, we talked about how easy the Chargers schedule would be down the stretch, and it's kind of panned out that way. And so I think that the Chargers here are going to have an uphill climb, not to get up for this game, but I think it's just they aren't. I haven't seen them play their best football right now, and I think Brandon Staley is. I think Brandon Staley might do something that costs them this game because he's the most prone coach to doing that. So that's sort of the money line play here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers do win this game. I think it's going to be very close. So that's why I'm going to take the home dog in this situation. I know normally that you don't really talk about home dogs in the NFL, but this feels like a situation where it's apropos. And I'm going to also take the money line just on the suspicion that like their weird momentum into the playoffs and Brandon Staley sort of cost them a victory here.
I don't hate it. I'm on the opposite side here. I am Chargers -2.5. I almost lean money line on the Chargers just because it's only at minus 135, 140 ish. I see, and I think there's some decent value there. I look. I think bottom line up front, this comes down to, and I know it's so silly to say, but a quarterback matchup, and really the quarterback matchup I'm looking at is the Jags defense versus Justin Herbert. I think the Chargers D can kind of handle Trevor Lawrence. He's had a very good season. Still think he's got a little room to grow, but Herbert, uh, has been outstanding. His one flaw is he's been turning the ball over a little bit on interceptions. I think if he can limit that to not throwing a pick in this game, I think the Chargers will come out on top and do so relatively easily. I could see this easily being a touchdown game. It's nothing against the Jaguars. Jacksonville's a good football, city, but there's something about the Chargers and how maybe they haven't finished, but how they've been playing this year, where I just think they're the better team, and I think that'll come to show and come to pass. It's a night game, so I don't really buy the whole like being on a plane a couple days earlier hurts you. And I don't know that the Jags D is going to be able to manage both Eckler in the running game and Herbert in the passing game. So I'm gonna go with the minus 2.5 on the Chargers here. I also think it's trending in the direction that it's almost going to be a pick 'em. So I might wait for this line to fall just a little bit. I think you can get down to probably like or one and a half.
It that is strange because the tickets and cash are on the Chargers, albeit
Right,
slightly. So
right.
it's a
I'm
little
seeing it.
odd that the line is coming in that direction.
Yeah, I see a few sports books have it at minus 1.5 instead of minus 2.5 already. Caesars in New Jersey specifically on Action App. But anyway, so I'm going to see if it trends down. If not, I think that the Chargers' run game is a lot better than the Jags, and I think that's where the difference will kind of be made because I think the defenses are pretty much even. If not, the Chargers have a leg up there. All right, we'll go to our next game. Rolling into Sunday at noon. Unfortunately, this is the noon game, but I think this, if Tua was not injured, and spoiler alert, Tua Tagovailoa will not be playing in this game, but Dolphins at Bills. Bills are 13.5 point favorites, which is a ridiculous line to me. The over-under is 43.5, and 87% of the cash is on Bills minus 13. Do you like Bills minus 13, Michael?
I hate where the line is.
I hate where the line is too, but I got to be honest. 13 points in playoff games is wild to me. I know
Yeah,
the Bills are very good. I know the Bills are very good.
yeah. I think it's
Not the
just.
number one seed.
I think that's more just Skylar Thompson, and it's. I have no idea, but the what I'm gonna play here is the under. Um, most of the money is on the over, but you have to figure that Bills at home tight game. They probably get to like even for them. I think
28 degrees and 5 mile an hour winds, by the way. So it'll be cold in the daytime. Granted, it's the
yeah,
daytime, so it's not as bad, but it'll be
but
cold.
still a somewhat easier game weather wise. It's just let's say you expect the Bills to score somewhere around 31, right? So are you trusting Skylar Thompson to get two touchdowns against the Bills defense? He got what he scored 10 points against the Jets in a game the Jets didn't care about, and the not necessarily didn't care about, but the Jets had no reason to play for that game, and he had to win it to get into the playoffs, and the only reason he got there was a late field goal to win it. So it's like I get it, the Jets defense is better than the Bills defense, but I don't have any confidence in Skylar Thompson putting up numbers in this game. And so I guess the argument for the over is that Buffalo is going to roll here. I it doesn't seem like I think they might, but I think they roll in a low scoring game. I think like 31-10 and this stays under 43 is certainly possible. I think even like 27-10, 27-7, something where the Bills dominate, but it's a relatively lower scoring game because I do think that to some extent Miami goes into this week knowing that they have to play well defensively to even have a chance in this game. And to play well defensively means somewhere around 17 to 24 points against Josh Allen in a playoff game where he's at home. I, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but at least Miami's thought process of having to get there, I think, keeps the Bills under that 30-ish, 35 point, at least under the 35-point threshold. And then you're just counting on Skylar Thompson to be Skylar Thompson. So, yeah, I hate the spread. I don't know what's going to happen here. Gun to my head, I take Buffalo because I'm more confident that they pull away late and Skylar Thompson just can't bring the team back. But I think the better play here is the under.
I like the play on the under. The Bills, sometimes people think they're going to have an explosive day, and then they just kind of pitter patter. They still win the game, but it's not something you write home about. I don't like that Tua's out. Obviously, I certainly don't like that Teddy's out, and you're kind of relying on Skyler. And then Raheem Mostert, their running back, is questionable at best right now. I think they're going to rely on Myles Gaskin a little bit more from the Dolphins. I think 14 points is a lot. Um, I actually so I lean Dolphins plus 14. I will take the under with you. I think 43 is a lot in a kind of game where you're at the Bills. Really what you're betting when you're betting that 43 and a half is A, the Bills don't score 44 points on their own, which is possible but not probable, and then B, the Miami Dolphins with a backup or really third string quarterback don't keep pace, if you will, to get this number on the over. So I'm going to take the under here, 43 and a half. Tua is not playing. They're going to struggle with the run game with a second string running back. The Bills defense is stout. I'm concerned about the Bills' ability not to score against the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins their defense is all over the place sometimes. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they've just been dog water. But I feel like this is one of those games where Buffalo won't come out slow, but you're going to see less points than you might imagine if this were like week 2 of the season when they're scoring against each other like crazy. So I'm going to go with you on the under. Again, I lean the 2 touchdown spread. If this hits 14 and a half, I'll probably take the Dolphins, to be honest with you. Moving on.
Yeah, the only point I was going to add was so besides the Patriots game last week, where the Patriots are playing for their playoff lives, and the game that got canceled, they gave up like similar. I would argue and this also excludes the Dolphins with Tua, but in the past 4 games, I guess besides 5 games, Patriots they give up 23, with the Bears they give up 13, Dolphins they give up 29 again with Tua, Jets they give up 12, Patriots they give up 10. So if you expect the Dolphins offense to be about as functional as like a Justin Fields led Bears or the Mac Jones led Patriots, um, there's your under.
Yeah. I don't hate that. I mean, look, they played very poorly against the Jets. Granted, it wasn't a game that really mattered for them, but it still mattered. But the way they kind of played down the stretch, going in the last 6 games, going 2-4, it's not how you want to enter the playoffs. They've had some pretty bad games, but even the games they had that were bad, like if you look at the Dolphins 49ers game, they still covered 14 or barely didn't cover 14, and
Mm-hmm.
Tua was playing. So maybe you're right. Maybe you lean the opposite way and go Bills. But the Bills, the past 2 games this year that they've played against the Dolphins, granted Tua was behind center, but they were 3-point games and they split them 1-1. So
Yeah, I think bottom line is the spread's too volatile. I like the under the total here.
I agree. Okay, next game. Heavy percentage of money bet. Giants at Vikings, 3:30. I'm sorry, 4:30 Eastern time. The Vikings are 3-point favorites. The over under is 48, and there is 91% of the money on the Giants. I have a take here.
Go for it, because I
It's not really a take. The Vikings are good. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. Is he the best quarterback in the league? Absolutely not. Is he in the bottom 50% of the quarterbacks in the NFC? He is not. I would argue, is very much top three, right? And you get this narrative behind Cousins and how they play and his performance in quote unquote prime time. The Vikings were in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles, what, 3 years ago? They they have been on this run. The team that's playing now has players that have been on a run that went to the championship game. They're at home facing a good Giants team. Don't get me wrong, a good Giants team, but a team that I don't know that they're like everyone is so sure that the Giants are going to come out and win like they did against the Ravens in an awesome comeback earlier in the season or against, you know, teams that the Giants have kind of gotten lucky to beat at points, right? And I don't know that they come into Minnesota in a game that everybody's going to care and they somehow cover 3 points. I think this is a 7 point game. I think this is a touchdown game, maybe 10 points, and the Giants get a last minute, garbage time TD and you push. But I love the Vikings -3 here. I think Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. I think the Vikings are on fire for the most part. They're a very disrespected 13-4 team, and they've won games when it mattered. I keep hearing the stat about, granted, I get point differential, but you hear the stat like, oh, they're this and that in one score games. It's like, yeah, they've won all the one score games they've been in. That's really impressive. We don't give them credit for it because there's like a social media narrative around, Cousins can be corny and who the fuck cares about Minnesota, blah, 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 blah. I think the Vikings come out. I think they show the Giants that they are just slightly below where they think they are. And maybe the Giants get fired up for next season, but I think the Vikings come out and show us that they are a contender for the NFC in this game.
I don't hate it. I mean,
So Vikings -3 is my pick.
yeah, I don't have a pick on the spread.
Okay.
I hate this line. I really do. I despise this line.
I if you gave me, I will find this bet. It's got to be in a book somewhere for the game to end exactly on a 3 point Minnesota victory. That seems like exactly what's going to happen. 3 points in this line. I'm more confident in a push in this game than I've ever been confident in.
Yeah, that's sort of where I am too. Where it's like the reason I hate this line so much is because I wish it was either way, in either direction, not on this number,
Like
nailed
here's what,
on this number.
if you're watching this and you're a better, right? Bet Vikings to win exactly by 3. Don't buy the half point. Bet them on the spread, and then when that pushes and it's like plus 2,000 for you to hit your win by exactly 3 bet, you'll be thankful.
Yeah, but I'm gonna take the over.
I don't hate that both these teams.
At 48, and the reason I feel that way is because it doesn't make like I've talked about this before, but the path to victory, right? The path to victory for the Vikings here is they're a better offensive team than they are a defensive team, and the Giants' offense has been playing better lately. They don't really have weapons on the outside, but I do think they keep this game close. We've talked about it. This game is going to go back and forth and pinball at the end, just like the one when they. How long ago did they play? 3 weeks ago.
They played on Christmas Eve, and Minnesota won 24-27. So the precedent for the overhitting is already there, right?
Yeah, and so that's sort of where I see this game. I think the offenses will be better adjusted. I think there's this game feels like it's going to be back and forth in the fourth quarter. Like you said, one score game. You don't know what side of that 3 point number this is going to fall. And I don't even know who's going to win, to be honest. I have no clue. I gun in my head, I say the Vikings, but I like covering, no clue. To me, the spread here is so weird because you could see on either side of 7 points off a tie.
Mm-hmm.
You could see either team winning that game, right? You could see the Giants winning by 7. You could see the Vikings winning by 7. So like to me, the spread here, it's not a number where you're like, yeah, I think it'll hang around that number. It's like this game could be anywhere in any direction. So that's why I don't like this number where it is, just because I think this game has like a 14-point volatility versus like a much smaller window. But I do think that sort of volatility plays into the end of this game is going to be nuts. and you're going to get points at the end that are going to push this total over. I honestly, too, I wouldn't be surprised if we see overtime that pushes this over the total.
Oh my god, we're reading each other's minds. I was literally about to say I might bet that this game goes to overtime. Like, obviously, it can't end in a tie,
Yeah,
right? But if you look how closely these two teams played each other, a field goal in the first half is what separated a Giants tie from and then overtime versus a Vikings victory, right?
yeah,
And I also like over 6.5 touchdowns. I don't know what the line would be on that. It might be like plus 250, right? But they scored 6 the last time they saw each other. I don't think inherently that these defenses are going to play better. Maybe they've seen a
yeah,
few things, but I think the offensive coordinator is going to scheme. I think Dable's going to scheme up new stuff to kind of keep the Vikings backpedaling. It would not surprise me at all if this went to overtime. So I might sprinkle that a little bit because those are
yeah.
usually like
I think
pretty.
that leans that way too because you have two offensively minded coaches, two teams that don't have the talent to sort of make up a gap on defensively. Like it's not like a one off defensive lapse in a game where both teams have played better down the stretch
Right.
defensively. They're both offensively minded teams that need to score to some extent to win, and
Mm-hmm.
are better on the offensive side of the ball probably than they are on the defensive side of the ball. So to me that lends itself to even more points in this game. The total being so low is the only thing that scares me here because they 27-24 that number is that's
I think what you're seeing there is the assumption that somehow these defenses, having played those offenses before, will be familiar with what plays they're running and like what schemes they're going to try and do and what the first 15 or so plays is going to
yeah,
look like. And I don't buy into that because I think if you're an offensive coordinator, you just got to scheme up new shit. Like,
yeah,
hey, this is what we ran in the first game. Here's what we do in the second game.
yeah. So I think all that lends itself to the over, and that's why I'm on the over.
I would agree. Next game, second to last game, Sunday Night Football. Ravens at Bengals. The line is 9.5 in favor of the Bengals, who are at home. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong. Lamar Jackson's out.
He
He is
is.
out. Yes,
He
he released.
announced that he was out
He
himself.
did. Yes, which is questionable at best.
So
Um,
yeah,
I might have let the coach announce it, but whatever. Okay, so over under is 40.5, which is crazy to think about until you kind of look into how these teams play each other, and that kind of makes a little more sense. But I'll let you go first, Mike, because I feel pretty strongly about this too, but I want to see what you have to say.
my only play is the under.
Really?
Yes, the here are the Ravens team totals since Lamar has been out. Uh, 10 against the Broncos, 16 against the Steelers, 3 against the Browns, 17 against the Falcons, 13 against the Steelers the second time, and then 16 against these same Bengals last week. Um,
Yeah, so that's what I don't like about this matchup is that it literally happened last week. But granted,
yeah, and I also think this number's at 9.5. I'm scared. I like the Ravens, but I think that the the
you
fact
like
that
the
Lamar's
Ravens.
not playing is just such a momentum hurdle that I don't think they can get over. But I think the Ravens defense comes out with their hair on fire in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals really struggle in the first half, and then win it in the second half. To me, that could end up being 10 points. Um, but either way, I do think this is the type of game where I think the two defenses make the adjustments and are both team not the Bengals aren't necessarily better on the defensive side of the ball, but the Ravens definitely are. And the Bengals are good enough on the defensive side of the ball that the point total should be lower in this game. So I get that they just played to a total that's over this number. I'm going to take it this time on the opposite side. So I'm going to take them under 40.5.
Have they announced who's starting for the Ravens? Is
I
it
would
Anthony
assume
Jones?
it's Huntley.
Okay. That makes more sense. I think the Ravens kind of like did a throwaway of last week.
Yeah.
Um, so I
This is
I don't
also, for the record, this is a system play. And it's sort of a rat line because if you look at last week, you would say, how is this total at 40.5? And the under right now is catching 53% of the public tickets, but 93% of the cash. So it seems like the heavy bettors have sniffed this rat out. So I'm going to ride them.
I will ride with you on the under 40 and a half. I so my truthfully, if I don't hate how Huntley was playing at parts of the year. Um, I lean under Ravens 15 and a half is what I see as the team total line. I also lean Bengals over 25 and a half. I think the Bengals score at least 4 touchdowns, so at least get to 28 in this game. But I don't see a world in which the Bengals lose this game. So if you want, put the money line in on a parlay or something. But I'll probably ride with you on the under. But I do like Bengals minus 9.5. I don't. The Bengals in the playoffs
It's such
were
a it's such a square move, but you could tease the Bengals and the Bills.
actually I don't hate that either. Here's my thinking, and I've said it before, and I know what a homer I'm being about Joe Burrow because I love Joe Burrow. He's my favorite quarterback to watch play. Um, I don't. I, if you watch how the Bengals played in the postseason last year, they played with like their hair was on fire. Like there were like an animal came out of Joe Burrow that you didn't see save for like LSU in key moments. And I think you kind of are going to see that again. And I know the money is on the Ravens at about plus 9.5. I get it. Something about this Bengals team, something about how Joe Burrow plays, I don't see them not scoring a team total over. So you know what? I'll forego the spread, but I'm going to take team total Bengals over 26 or over 25 and a half. That'll be my pick. But I really do think the Bengals pull away with this one and quickly pull away with this one, especially without a QB1 for the Ravens.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Last game of the week, wild card weekend. Cowboys at Buccaneers, Monday night football, 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. Over under is 45 and a half. The line is Buccaneers plus 2.5. I have two picks for this, but Mike, do you want to go first or do you want to go second?
I want to hear yours because I'm a little ashamed of my pick.
Okay. My favorite time of the year is when the Dallas Cowboys are eliminated from playoff contention after being in the playoffs. Watching them lose the playoffs is a time-honored tradition I've enjoyed my entire life. They have not won the Super Bowl in the years that I've been alive, at least that I can remember. I'm pretty sure they won in '94, but I was like 2, right? So
I thought that was a Giants one. I'll look it up. You keep going.
it was '92 or '94. Anyway, this is not a game the Dallas Cowboys are going to lose. Uh, just a couple thoughts, right? First of all, Tom Brady against the spread in the playoffs, he typically does pretty well, but
You're
he's
you're
performed.
right. They won it in 93, 94, and 96.
Yeah, what was I 3 and 96? So look, the Bucks are a good team, but they haven't been playing their best football. And I know it sounds so stupid, but Tom Brady playing at night, he's been playing so bad. Like it's not the Kirk Cousins in primetime thing. I think it's just genuinely like body clock. He's getting older. I like straight up, he just does not play well at night. I don't think the Cowboys are perennial contenders. I think they're probably the third best team in the NFC, but certainly better than the Bucks. So I have two bets for this. One, I'm taking Cowboys minus 2.5. I think they will probably win by 7 to 14 points. I think you're going to see all this hype around the Dallas Cowboys, and then the crushing defeat that happens in the week after is something really you want to savor and enjoy. The other thing I'm going to bet on, and this is a little niche but still good, Dak Prescott over 1/2 of an interception. So betting on Dak Prescott to have an interception. He has led the league in interceptions this year, having played 5 less games than any other quarterback in the league, and still leading in interceptions. So there's precedent there, and I think the Bucks are a pretty good defense. Um, they're not amazing, but they're still a very good team. So look, I think the Bucks are going to lose here at home. I think Tom Brady's going to struggle against Micah Parsons. especially and how that Cowboys D's been playing. And I think what you'll see is Dak will have his moments, but he'll also have some not great moments, and you'll see the cracks start to form for when they lose in the coming weeks. That's my wager. That is my understanding of the Dallas Cowboys. I think they will win this game. I think you're going to see all this hype around the team, and then they're going to fall flat on their face in the following week, no matter who they play. I'll let you go.
So I was on the Bucks, and I say was because I am like, this is such a square, like Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady. It's Tom Brady, right? It's Tom Brady. You can't bet
Yeah,
against Tom Brady.
yeah, exactly. In the
And
playoffs,
it's just I. The truth is, I have no idea, and I was sort of riding like a home underdog. Brady finds a way to pull this out at the end. Dallas has been playing awful football, absolutely awful football. The past, I think, 3 weeks.
they so there is like a trend where they'll lose, they'll win two, they'll lose, and then they'll win four. And we are after the loss to the Washington Commanders. So if the trend continues, they'd win four, which means they'd win the Super Bowl. That's not going to happen.
They did
But
beat
I'm
the they
I'm
did
te-
beat the Titans. They had that, yeah. So I guess I'm
I
off.
feel it in my bones. You're going to see Dallas come out firing out the gate, and they're going to do really well. And then you're going to have all this hype around them, and then they're just going to just do. They're going to be the worst versions of themselves next week, having ate up all of that hype and be on a short week.
I
But
think
yeah, I think Dallas covers here. And here, sorry, I keep interrupting you, but I will
you.
say one more point before I forget. The fact that both percentage of bets and percentage of money is on the Bucks in this is so shocking to me because Dallas is always like a homer bet them, like get that money on the Dallas Cowboys kind of pick because there's so many fans out there, and the fact that all the bets are against them just makes me think that it's even a better pick than I thought it was.
I so I was gonna pick that, and then I was like, I don't think so. But I actually think this game is gonna go the opposite way of sort of not the opposite way of what you think, but I think this is gonna be an ugly, ugly playoff game. These two teams played early in the year. Dak got hurt. Final score is 19-3. Bucks on the road. Um, the total is at 45 and a half, which I understand means like 20 what
I think both
three
teams are like 22 and a half and 23 and a half is the
yeah
line.
23 each. I think that I would not be shocked if this game is won 24-17, and I think Dallas wins it 24-17. That's my pick, and that means it stays under just because Tampa Bay, I just looked it up. I don't think they scored 30 against the Panthers in a game that was basically the division win, like to win the division. But besides that, they scored 17 last week against the Falcons. And again, granted, they took everybody out by halftime. But before that, 19 against the Cardinals, 23 against the Bengals, 7 against the 49ers, 17 against the Saints, 17 against the Browns, 21 against the Seahawks, 16 against the Rams. Like they're right around that 19 number, and that's where they're going to be in this game. And I think Dallas finds a way to score get one more ball across the line, and that could be either the goal line or the goal posts, but it will happen. And I think Dallas, I think you're right. I think then the play for me should be Dallas, but I'm just scared of like they win by 2 for some stupid reason.
I
Um,
don't. I don't. I, look, I think if the way the Bucks have played on offense, throw in admittedly one of the better defenses in the league,
yeah,
like especially that D line rivals, Washington and others on like just potency, the 49ers, right? Like just imagine poor decrepit old Tom Brady running around trying to avoid Micah Parsons, like
yeah.
who's 20 years younger
I
than him.
I
I
just
just
see.
don't see how they keep up with the
Yeah,
Cowboys
this
if the
this
Cowboys
game
play
feels like
remotely like they've been playing.
this game feels like it's going to be these two teams trading interceptions. One of them cashes it in. It's like 7-3 at the beginning of the second quarter, and then it's 10-7 at halftime. and you're staring down the barrel of 17 having to make up 45. Like, why did I think these teams were going to score? And it's just that's sort of how I feel like this game's going to go. And so I know the money's on the over. I know that the public is sort of split. I'm going to take the under here because it just feels like Dak's been off. Tampa Bay obviously has never clicked offensively the whole year. It just doesn't feel like either of these teams is primed for a breakout to where they're both going to clear 23 points. One of them is not going to make it, and if that's the case, you win. So, that's where I'm at.
I like it. I'm gonna take Bucks team total under. By the way, I think you've convinced me there.
What is the total team
It's
total?
22 and a half.
Yeah,
So
I see.
I
I
don't see
love
them
that.
scoring over 3 touchdowns.
I love that number. Yeah.
You could see like 5 drives into the red zone, and all 5 wind up with field goals, and then
Yeah,
they score like
yeah,
3 touchdowns. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah, asking them to score even 3 touchdowns and a field goal feels like too much.
I would agree. All right, well that's our roundup. Like and subscribe. College football season's over, so we only got this episode once a week until the
Also,
playoff.
never been more right about a game in my life than the,
Never
the
been more
national
wrong.
title game.
Yeah, never been more wrong. Uh, man, if I could bottle up the hope I had at that TCU touchdown, where it's now only 10-7, and you're like, this could go on. They can cover, and then they didn't cover.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it wasn't even close.
I
That game, like clearly Georgia dominated the entire game, but I'll tell you when that game ended. Max Duggan had Quentin Johnson on a post down the middle, and it was a touchdown. It was cover two, and the free safety was like 15 yards deep. So there was just a split where the backside safety Johnson's coming across the middle. This safety has bit on the in breaking route, and this is a post. Like this is a surefire touchdown. And Max Duggan throws it 10 yards over his head and gets picked off. And then Georgia goes down and scores a touchdown. I think it was 17-7 at that point, or
Yeah,
24-7.
that
But
was bad.
as soon as he threw that pick, that game ended, and in any meaningful way.
Yeah. Well, look, you can't have all good ones. Hopefully, this week's games are pretty darn good. Wildcard weekends, there's been some shockers. I think, what was it? It was back when Brady was still in the Patriots. They had that like string of like 3 of the 4 wild card games. This was before the playoff expansion. 3 of the 4 wild card games, like the underdog of like 7 or more points won, something crazy. So don't discount, the chance that something wild happens. But I do think I'm pretty confident in how this week will turn out. We'll recap next week, but that's been Stupid versus the Spread. I'm Alex. That's Mike. Like and subscribe. We do this episode. We do a new episode every week. One for college football when the season is still in session, which it is not, and one for the NFL. So we'll keep breaking down all these games, talking about what could go wrong for each team, and we'll enjoy it. And like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.